Title: The Haunted Tombstone That Kept Calling My Name. The name on the tombstone. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below if you've ever encountered something that still haunts you to this day. Trust me, this one's not going to leave your mind anytime soon. It was a crisp autumn day when David McKinney first stumbled upon the forgotten cemetery. The forest surrounding it was thick with trees, their trunks gnarled and twisting like the fingers of old ghosts trying to hold him back. The cemetery was hidden deep in Vermont's wilderness, a place that had been abandoned for decades. No one in the nearby town spoke of it, and for good reason. Even the locals knew that some places were better left undisturbed. But David wasn't from the area. He was a city boy, new to Vermont, eager to find anything to make his life more interesting. His love for photography had led him to this place, and in his ignorance, he thought he could snap a few haunting photos of the old gravestones. What he didn't know was that his curiosity would soon cost him more than he could ever imagine. As he explored the cemetery, a sense of dread crept up his spine. The air felt unnaturally cold, and the sound of rustling leaves seemed to echo off the ancient stones. The gravestones were old, the inscriptions worn down by time, but one particular stone caught his attention. It was larger than the others, sitting on the edge of the cemetery, almost as if it were waiting for someone to notice it. The name etched into the stone was David McKinney. His first instinct was to laugh. It had to be a coincidence, right? He was the only McKinney he knew. The idea that a grave with his name on it was just sitting there, it had to be a mistake, some sort of bizarre prank. But as he stared at the stone, the laughter died in his throat. There was something wrong about it. The stone wasn't just old, it was ancient. It didn't belong in this modern cemetery. It didn't match the others. The font was too archaic, the edges too sharp. And there was a dark, sticky substance smeared along the bottom, as though someone had tried to wipe it clean but failed. David took a step back, his mind racing. This was too strange. He snapped a quick photo of the stone, shrugged it off, and walked away. But as he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following him. That night, as he settled into his new home, the incident seemed less important. But around midnight, as he was drifting off to sleep, he heard it, a faint whisper from the window. David. He sat up, his heart pounding in his chest. His first thought was that it was the wind, or maybe even his imagination. But the whisper was so clear, so direct, that he couldn't ignore it. He crept to the window and opened the blinds only to find nothing. Just the quiet, empty yard under the pale glow of the street lamp. He tried to shake off the feeling, but something in the air felt wrong. He decided to go back to sleep, hoping it was just a trick of his tired mind. But as he lay there, eyes closed, the whisper came again. David, come back. His eyes snapped open. This time, the whisper wasn't just in his mind. It felt physical, as though it was in the room with him. Panic crept into his chest. He couldn't tell if it was the remnants of a dream or something far more sinister. By morning, the memory of the whisper lingered like a bad taste in his mouth. He tried to push it aside, but a gnawing curiosity started eating at him. After work, he drove back to the cemetery, determined to find some logical explanation. But as he stood before the gravestone again, the feeling returned, the same unsettling sensation that something was watching him. This time, when he looked closer, he noticed something strange. The name on the stone, his name seemed fresher than before, as if it had been etched just hours ago. He reached out to touch it, and as his fingers brushed against the stone, the air around him grew cold, the temperature dropping by several degrees. Suddenly, the ground beneath him rumbled, a low, unsettling growl emanating from deep within the earth. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and David stumbled back in fear. Then the whispers came again, louder this time, almost deafening. David, you cannot escape. He turned to run, his heart racing, but as he looked back, he saw something in the distance, a shadow moving slowly across the cemetery, its form shifting and changing as if it were not quite human. And then, Just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the trees. David didn't need to look back. He knew something terrible was waiting for him, something ancient and vengeful. As he fled the cemetery, he knew that the name on the stone wasn't just a coincidence. The spirit of the cemetery, or whatever had been buried there, had recognized him. And now it was calling for him. The following days were a blur for David. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape the haunting memory of the cemetery, the whisper that seemed to echo in his mind, and the unsettling feeling that something was following him. He couldn't sleep at night, the whispers creeping into his dreams, and every shadow seemed to be watching him from the corners of his new home. He told his wife, Claire, about the cemetery and the whispers, but she dismissed it. "You've been stressed lately," she said, brushing off his concerns. "It's just the move. You're overthinking things." But as the days wore on, the situation didn't improve. If anything, it worsened. One night, as David lay in bed, trying to sleep, he heard the same whisper again. But this time it was clearer, sharper. David. His eyes snapped open, his heart racing. The voice was unmistakable. It was coming from inside the house, not from outside the window as it had before. He quickly got up, moving cautiously toward the source. He stepped into the hallway, the air thick and heavy, as if something were pressing down on him. His breath caught in his throat. The hallway felt wrong. The walls seemed to be closing in, the lights flickering, casting long, eerie shadows. As he moved down the hall, he noticed something odd. The sound was coming from the guest room, the very room they had been using as a storage space for boxes. The door was slightly ajar, and the whispering was louder now, clearer. "David, come closer." He pushed the door open slowly, his hand shaking. Inside, the room was empty, except for the stack of boxes and a few furniture pieces covered in dust. The whisper came again, louder now, and suddenly the air grew colder. He could see his breath as it fogged in front of him. "David." He spun around, heart racing. The room was still, the floor creaking underfoot. And then, from behind him, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy, slow, and deliberate. David's breath caught in his throat, and he turned to face the source, but there was nothing there. No one. Only silence. Terrified, David backed out of the room and into the hallway. He had to get out of there. But as he stepped toward the stairs, he felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. He turned around quickly, half expecting to see a figure standing there. But once again, the house was empty. Frustrated and frightened, David decided to leave the house for a while. He needed space, needed to clear his mind. But as he walked out the front door, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The cemetery was right there, just beyond the trees, and standing at the entrance, staring at him, was the same shadowy figure he had seen before. Its form was tall, almost humanoid, but its features were hidden in the darkness. The figure didn't move, it didn't approach, it just stood there, watching him with those unblinking eyes. David froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't look away. The figure didn't make a sound, didn't move. It was as if it was waiting for him to make the first move. Slowly, David took a step back, his eyes still locked on the figure. Then, in a flash, it was gone. He blinked, thinking he had imagined it, but the figure had disappeared. as though it had never been there at all. His heart raced as he quickly walked back into the house, locking the door behind him. That night, the whispers came again, but this time, they weren't calling his name. They were calling something else. Come home. It wasn't David's voice anymore. It was something else, a low, guttural voice, full of malice. The house seemed to close in on him, the walls creaking and groaning as though they were alive. He tried to move, tried to escape, but the door wouldn't open. It was as though the house was holding him in, trapping him inside. Then the whispers came again, louder and more urgent. Come home, David. It's time. The walls began to shake, and the lights flickered wildly. David was now trapped in his own home, unable to escape the voice that called him. He backed into the corner of the room, his heart pounding, his breathing shallow. He couldn't get out. He couldn't run. And as the walls closed in on him, the last thing he heard was the voice saying, "It's too late for you now." The night passed slowly. David sat on the floor, his back pressed against the wall, eyes wide and fixed on the door. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the whispers came back louder, more insistent. Come home, David. Come home. The words haunted him, gnawing at his sanity. He had to leave, but he couldn't move. The house had become a prison, its walls pressing in on him as if they knew he was trying to escape. Every creak of the floorboards made him jump. Every flicker of the lights made him tremble. Something was waiting. Something was watching him, but he didn't know what it was or what it wanted. By the time the morning light crept through the blinds, David had made up his mind. He had to know the truth. The whispers, the figure in the cemetery, and the voice that wasn't his own. They all led him to one thing. He needed to know what was buried beneath this house, what dark secret had been hiding here for decades. Ignoring Emma's warnings to leave, David grabbed a flashlight and headed down to the basement. The stairs creaked underfoot as he descended into the cold, damp darkness. His flashlight beam danced across the walls, illuminating old boxes and forgotten furniture. But as he reached the farthest corner, something caught his eye, a crack in the wall. It wasn't large, just a small gap, but it was enough to make his heart race. He approached the crack, shining the flashlight into it. His hands trembled as he reached into the gap, pulling at the old wood. The wall groaned, as if protesting, but with a final tug, it gave way. The crack expanded, revealing a narrow passageway behind the walls of the house. David's mind raced. He had never seen this part of the house before. How was it possible? The house had been here for decades. The walls were old, but not ancient. What could have been hidden here for all this time? Stepping into the passageway, David moved cautiously. The air was thick and damp, and the walls seemed to close in on him as he moved deeper into the darkness. His flashlight flickered, casting shadows that twisted unnaturally across the walls. The whispering grew louder, now accompanied by a low growl, like something or someone was just behind him. The passage led him to a small, narrow room. Inside there were old, rotting wooden crates stacked haphazardly against the walls. But in the center of the room was something that made his blood run cold, an old chest, covered in dust and cobwebs. Its lock was broken, and the lid was slightly ajar. David felt a shiver crawl up his spine as he approached the chest. He knew he shouldn't open it, but the pull of curiosity was too strong. His hand hovered over the lid for a moment, then he pushed it open. Inside there was nothing but a pile of old yellowed papers and a few tattered books. He sifted through the pages, and what he found made his stomach turn. The papers were diaries, handwritten accounts of the house's original owner, a man named Jonathan Drayton. The entries were unsettling, filled with ramblings about dark rituals and strange occurrences. As David read through them, he began to piece together a chilling history. Jonathan Drayton had been obsessed with summoning spirits, and according to the diaries, he had successfully trapped a malevolent force within the walls of the house. It was said that the demon had been bound by the rituals, but something had gone wrong. One final entry stood out. It was dated exactly 100 years ago, and it read, "The demon is waking. I can feel it in the walls, in the floors, in the air. It will not rest until it has consumed everything. I can hear it, calling my name, calling for someone to join it. It's coming for me. I fear I've made a terrible mistake." David's blood ran cold. The last words of Jonathan Drayton had been a desperate plea for help. But the demon, the spirit that had been trapped, hadn't gone anywhere. It had been waiting for someone to come along, waiting for him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. The sound of something heavy falling, followed by a chilling silence. David's heart raced. He couldn't stay here any longer. He had to get out. He turned to leave, but as he stepped back into the passageway, the walls seemed to close in around him. The whispering was deafening now, a chorus of voices, some familiar, some not all, calling his name, pleading with him to stay. The door at the end of the hallway slammed shut. In the darkness, David felt something grab his ankle, pulling him back. He tried to scream, but the sound caught in his throat. He was trapped, alone, and the walls were closing in, the demon's presence overwhelming him. His last breath echoed through the dark, damp passage. If you thought this was terrifying, wait for the next one. Make sure to subscribe, hit like, and comment below if you're ready for the next chilling tale that's guaranteed to haunt you.